We've got about a 7 or 8 alarm emergency here this morning, here in the household. And I tell you what, it's bad. I'm out of coffee. Okay, well, that was a close call. We had to make an emergency run to the grocery store. It was a trying time for me. That's a good cup of Joe. So about my cup of Joe, I've had some questions about it outside of YouTube and the social media and stuff I do, as to what I drink and why I drink it, and stuff like that. First of all, it's coffee, and I'm an addict because it's delicious. Right now, there's 2 brands I kind of bounce back and forth between. There's the Black Rifle, just black, and the Death Wish medium roast are the 2 that I'm really enjoy right now. I try to support local. I try to support American, at least manufactured, maybe not American grown coffee, but and I try as much as possible uh, to have organic coffee. But so those are the 2 name brands of coffee. I like a medium roast, but I don't mind a dark roast. So it's Sunday morning, and I tell you what, it is absolutely beautiful outside. We've had some cold, brutal days, and I hope those are behind us for this season. We're getting into, what are we in, the second week of February as I'm recording this right now, and I think it's supposed to get up into the 40s today, which you will get no argument from me on that. But more importantly, what are we going to do on the Bronco today? Well, I'm going to continue as I left off on the last video. I'm going to try to get a lot of the little loose ends done that I have been collecting here. So I kind of got my running list here of things that need to get done as far as the chassis is concerned, because what we need to do is we need to get the chassis done. That way, once I get it down on all 4 wheels here, which actually I could do that right now. So ultimately what we want to do is we want to raise this body back up for the Bronco, and I got to get the underside cleaned and prepped, and then I have to make a decision on how I'm going to treat that. There is some floor panel issues that I've got to address over here on the driver's side. They're not too bad. It's not going to be as in-depth as it was on let's say F-250 when I did that. But we still need to address that. So we're going to get that worked on. Then I got to get the bottom treated, whether I'm putting an undercoating on there or if I'm going to seal it with, that rust encapsulator or whatnot. And then we can look at getting the frame pushed back underneath the body. If you haven't seen the video on how I got the body off of the frame, we're going to do basically that same process. We're just going to play that video backwards and have it be done, because that's how it works. But as far as today is concerned, what we're going to be kind of focusing on is getting some more of these things on this list checked off. And the first thing we're going to start with is the easiest thing, which is I need to torque all the tie rod ends and get cotter pins in all of the places for cotter pins. And we got that done. So we'll cross that off. So what do we want to look at next? Front and rear differential lube? No, that's messy. Transmission fluid and filter? No, that's messy. Front drive shaft? No, I got to clean that and paint it. Upper intake bolts. We can do that. Okay, so we got the upper intake bolts in, although I am missing one, that stupid hex bit, not hex bit, Allen one that goes in the middle where you can't reach it. It'll turn up. I literally just saw it the other day when I was cleaning. I just can't remember where I did it. Because, have you ever done that where you're like, okay, well, here's this part. I absolutely cannot lose this part. So I'm going to put it right here so I don't forget where I put it and then completely forget where you put it. So that's what I've done there. Upper intake manifold bolts are in. Transmission, let's see, transmission dipstick. I just did that right here. We got to do the fan, fuel pump. Let's look at the fuel pump. You see, I found the bolt that goes in the upper intake manifold. You were all worried that you weren't going to be able to find it. And, like it was, you accidentally threw it away or something. And you didn't. It was right there. It was there. It was in the bucket that you put it in. Okay, so here's the fuel pump out of the Bronco. I mentioned, I think yesterday, or in the video I made yesterday that you saw, who knows when, but you cannot buy this entire assembly. At least I could not find it. And so I've kind of had to piece this back together. Now, everything worked in this. I didn't have an issue with the fuel pump before we tore into this, but, and you can tell here with these crimps that the pump itself has been changed at some point in time in its life. This could be on its fourth one. I don't know, but I did put a new sock on it, and the fuel gauge did not work when this was all put back together previously. And I came to find it had a brass float on it, and when I dropped that in some water, it was leaking. So that brass float was saturated. So I went to find a new float for it, and the float itself was $20, the replacement float, but I could buy the whole assembly that is not necessarily for this. It's just for Ford. But I could buy this whole assembly for $12. And so I bought that, popped the float off of it, and snapped it on there. So hopefully that will take care of that issue. I checked resistance on this wire, and the rheostat is working in there. So the gauge should work. So we'll go throw this back in. So we'll put this back in, and you kind of got to seesaw this in. Make sure if you're doing this yourself, you get all that debris out of there. Blow it down into the tank. Make sure you get that gasket in there. Now the tank itself, I went ahead and I bought a new tank. I was going to try to reuse the old one, but the old one, after I started cleaning it up with the wire brush, some of the rust spots were highly, highly suspicious. And I just didn't want to risk it. I mean, this fuel tank I found on, I think it was Amazon. I got it on sale. It had a coupon for, I think I got it for like $87. So, I mean, there's no argument there. But yeah, you just gently set your fuel pump in there. And this is your ring. Your fuel tank should come with a new one. And it just locks in there. Now, I would recommend if you were doing this on an existing fuel tank, not using a hammer or using it like a brass hammer, because you don't really want to make any sparks, because the fuel vapor is what is really flammable when it comes to that. But yeah, you just do that. Just use yourself a little punch here. and snug that up. You want to twist these over to where they're actually locked in, because you do not want this coming out. So then you take your little caps off that you put on here. Put your fuel lines on. And then you take this off and you put your fuel lines on. Snap the little plastic clips back in. Be careful taking these off, because if you don't have new ones, because it's got like a double redundant clip on it. And if you're not careful, you will break them. But make sure they're on there all the way. Snap your little clippy in. Figure out what you did with the wiring harness, which is right here. We're going to clean out that old dielectric and get some new dielectric. Go ahead and get some new dielectric grease in there, which is basically just a silicone grease. And plug your connector back in. And there you go. That's all done. I have to find this gasket or bushing. I'm not too sure what happened to it. So I might have mentioned it in another video, but I am not using an evap system on this. Like I said, that needs a bushing. But anyways, since I'm not reusing the evap system in this, we can just plug that off, because this just essentially turns this into a vent for the fuel tank. So I do want to address one thing, is that I have made mention in previous videos and this video that I've gotten, I'm not going to utilize the smog pump systems or the EGR system or the evap system. And the reason for that is that to simplify the operation of the engine. Now, I am not condoning this. I am not teaching you how to do this. If you want to do it, do your own thing, and check your own state regulations or whatever as far as emissions go. But before I got this, this is a 35-year-old vehicle. And long before I got this, and long before the previous owner got this, and so on and so forth, somebody had removed the smog system. This had no catalytic converter on it. And the EGR and evap system, that all kind of works in conjunction with one another. And if you're getting rid of one, you might as well get rid of them all. And we could get into the EGR, but I'm not going to. So I'm just not putting it back on. So with that being said, do your own research. I'm not an authority on this, and I'm not an expert. So do your own research and do whatever you want with your vehicle. Okay, what can we cross off here? We can cross off the fuel pump. So we've got the front fan, which I forgot to put on. I don't know in the last video if you noticed or not, but I put that drive pulley on for the water pump, and that runs the fan too. So I need to get that put on. I got to look at the exhaust. I got to do the rear sway bar. So I'll probably maybe look at that next, because I have to clean that. I have to wire brush that and paint it. So let me look at that here. Okay, where do we leave off here? I have been going through and just nose to the grindstone, knocking stuff out. And I need to cross a few more things off. So front drive shaft is installed. I started the exhaust, Rear sway bar is in. I did not touch the rear parking brake cables because I don't want to do brakes right now. So, I have to add to the list the cross member gusset. I think it's a gusset. I don't know. I think I misspelled that too. Does that have two T's in it? Maybe. Okay. Well, I'm gonna do a tour here of the Bronco and kind of show you what all we've gotten done. Up here, there is one transmission cooler line that has been installed. I've got the upper intake bolts in. I put this cap on the power steering pump. It's not straight. I got to get some transmission fluid for that, or power steering fluid, whatever you want to call it. Exhaust. I went ahead and I cleaned up and fitted our Y pipe, and it's looking pretty good. I'll show you the other side. I sandblasted and painted this little bracket. I got the oil dipstick tube in, cleaned up and painted, as well as the transmission dipstick tube in. Oh, like I said, the parking brake cables are in. The front drive shaft is cleaned up, painted, and has been installed. The rear is in as well. I also have the rear sway bar cleaned up, painted, and put in. And so far, I don't think we're going to have to modify it because of the lift, although those are definitely back a little bit more than where they were originally. So that's good. I've done little things like, get all the wiring trained up here and looking good, putting zip ties on stuff, cleaning things up, making sure everything's clear coated that needs to be clear coated. Brake lines are in, speed sensors hooked up, fuel lines are in, shock absorbers are in, springs are in. Here's that one transmission cooler line. There's the transmission dipstick tube. There's that Y pipe. So I had to cut it to get it to fit down underneath here. And I've got a band clamp holding it now. That's not the right size. I will address that at a later point in time. Right now, my wife is perusing the internet, trying to decide what kind of exhaust she wants on this, and mainly where she wants it to exit. It's got nothing to do with performance or anything like that. It's just how it looks. One concern that we read, which is a valid one, is having duals going straight out the back could run into a problem, because if you have that rear window down and the low pressure that is caused by aerodynamics and stuff could suck exhaust gases into the cabin as you're going down the road. We don't really want that. Although my argument to her on that was, why would you have the rear window down if you didn't also have the front windows down? But be that as it may, I understand. I still kind of like the side dump, coming out the side down here right in front of the right rear wheel. I think we can make something look cool on that. But yeah, she's kind of deciding what she wants to do with that. We'll probably use what are they? Superflow Super 44, I think is what they are. But yeah, another thing, something else that I didn't really show me doing, but is the suspension travel strap. So as you can see there, I've installed this strap, and what this is for is because if you recall in the other video, there is so much spring tension pushing down on this shock. I didn't like the idea of that, especially if you were to do like a lift. If you were to take this into a shop or something, they were to put it on a lift and lift it up. All that tension, not only the weight of the axle pulling down, but the tension on that spring would be pushing against that shock. And I didn't like that. So I put those travel limiting straps in there. I ordered those off of Amazon. I've honestly, I've never put anything like that on before. I don't even know what name brand that is. Raz TP. They seem pretty beefy. They came with hardware. You can see I simply attached them with the factory bolts that held this shock mount on. And then I had to make this spacer to space it out the same. And then I just drilled a hole up here and ran a good grade 8 bolt through there. So, and we've got, so that's not pulling down on that shock. That shock still has a little bit of space between the cylinder piston that's in there and the outer cylinder. So that's what I wanted for there, just as a safety measure. So with that, I think I'm going to call it a weekend. Got a lot of things checked off the list here, and we're coming right along with this thing. I went ahead and ordered body mounts today. We'll go ahead, and once my wife picks out the exhaust that she wants, we'll get that installed, because it is so much nicer putting the exhaust in these frames with the body off of it. You're not laying down and trying to weld, on your back with it falling in your face and burning your chest and all that great stuff. But yeah, we are getting there, guys. Pretty darn pleased with how this is all coming together, and pretty soon we'll be working on that body. So I appreciate everybody watching. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed yet, I would so very much appreciate a subscription from you, and a like, a thumbs up. I guess those are the same things, right? But give me a comment. I really appreciate comments and stuff like that. Let me know if you're working on a project, or you're thinking about a Bronco, or you had a Bronco in the past, or any other things you just kind of want to talk about. Maybe you want to talk about how snappy of a dresser I am. I don't know. It could be. I don't know.